prescribe antibiotics from these texts, and we had these different BERT models and whatnot. It was pre-ChatGPT days.
Yeah.
And we could, you're right. We predicted, and we also use explainable AI. And I know you have some ideas about this, so I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. But at those days, at least, we used explainable AI to try to see, why did it think it should prescribe antibiotics or not from the journal text? And it turned out that the model looked only at the name of the doctor that prescribed it.
Yeah.
And at that time, we tried to understand why. And either it was that some doctors were simply prescribing antibiotics too much because we wanted to reduce antibiotics prescription, of course. Or it was simply that some doctors were receiving more advanced cases or patients in some way. But in any case, I think that gave some interesting hints, right, from just using that. But you were also part of that project, right? What was your part of the project? What was it called? Swedish Medical Language Data Lab something, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like 3-4 years ago or something.
Yeah, I think it started 4 years ago, and then it ended. It was a 2-year project.
2-year project, yeah.
Yeah.
And what was the Sahlgrenska part?
It was prediction of risk of readmission of psychiatry patients.
Right. So they wanted to see if someone were admitted, if that was correct or not, or how would you describe it?
No, I think it was supposed to be used at the point of admission.
Yeah.
You can get a risk score of how big is the risk that this patient will come back within, I think it was 10 days or something.
Right, yeah.
So to be used as a decision support for the admitting doctor. So,
yeah. And then it used journal text as well?
Yeah, exactly. So I think both journal text, but also the structured data within the patient journal. So it's both free text and the structured. So kind of multimodality to some,
structured.
So this was 4 years ago, and where you two guys met?
Yes, I guess so.
Yeah.
Interesting. So what the outcome for that project, what was that?
Yeah, I think neither of the projects really delivered exactly what we were supposed to. But there are so many, I mean, when you run this type of project, you start with something really exploratory and speculative, and you don't really know... You don't know the final answer, of course, but you don't know how to go about with it either, because it was really challenging to understand how could we work with this data. We are your external partners, and we have our internal data. How should we go about to do this? So, and also I think it was also the starting point for us to get a decent sort of compute infrastructure.
The GPU, right?
Yeah, exactly. We didn't have any GPUs. It was like, and we asked our IT department, no, that's sort of impossible.
You got because I remember that. I think we got access to one of your GPUs as well.
Yeah.
Wasn't it like a 4010 or a 4060 or something GPU?
Oh, I don't remember. We still have it around.
Yeah.
But now we have two DGX A100 as well, so we don't, it's kind of for...
It's different than consumer grade 4060 or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I think these projects, unless you start working with real data and real use cases, you never know, how you are going to use them in the best way. So I think, even if it didn't turn out to be this perhaps success that you hoped for, the learnings from the failures is also very useful, right?
Yeah, and I think the Swedish project like that one, or this natural language processing project that was a sister project to that one, we learned a lot about how to collaborate around those kind of new projects that we didn't know where to end. And we also, I think we were preparing ourselves for the Gen AI era that we didn't know were coming. Because I also remember the feeling when everybody was talking about ChatGPT, and I was thinking about this project that we started 4 years ago when I was working in the SKR. And also that this was our dream when we were talking about what we would like to do with the natural language database.
Yeah, I imagine if that project had started like 4 years later, it would be completely
totally
different.
Yeah.
Completely different.
But I think when it comes to project, it's easy to say, "Oh, we failed because we didn't really deliver what we." But I think it's better to say we learned a lot.
Yes,
we learned a lot. I think that's the better way to look at
well
it.
said, and I think the learnings was a lot. I mean, it's a large number of learnings, and if you hadn't tried it, you would, fail later. So. Or learn later, so to speak.
Oh.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. I thought it was awesome, and that you also came about like 4 different companies, some healthcare companies, some tech companies.
Some example on collaboration.
Yeah.
Just that experience as well in learning to collaborate was also a value or lesson in itself.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was
very fun.
That as well. It
was
I think that's important.
Yeah. With that, very welcome here, Magnus Kjellberg. You are the head of, let's see if I get this correctly, the AI Competence Center at Sahlgrenska University Hospital.
Correct.
And we met a bit before, but I also saw some of the articles you've written on LinkedIn, and I've been really impressed with the type of activity and the knowledge you simply have in the main topic of today, which is basically AI in healthcare. So I'm very much looking forward to the discussion we will have here. And I also would like to say very welcome to Louise Callenberg.
Thank you.
And
I'm the new Henrik.
Yes, Callenberg, sorry. And Henrik is away today, but you could step in as a co-host. So, and we know each other for a number of years as well. So I'm very much looking forward to have you here on my side as well.
Yeah.
In this discussion, I think you have the awesome background as well from SKR and other use cases. So.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
Yes.
Actually, you have this thing that you call me when you have a short deadline, and I just arrive. So the first time was
because you're awesome.
Yes, thank you. But also I love those things that you do, those kind of talks, and it's great to be a part of your project again, Anders.
Thank you very much.
I think I was the first sitting in that chair.
Yes.
And I'm 109 or something.
Yes. It's been 100 plus. Is it 109, Goran, or 109? But with that, perhaps you can have a short or a brief introduction of yourself. Who is really Magnus Kjellberg, and can you just describe briefly your background and interests?
Okay, so currently I'm working at Sahlgrenska University Hospital. I'm heading the AI Competence Center, so I've been doing that for 2.5 years. I joined Sahlgrenska 5 years ago, roughly. I have a background in biology, so I did my PhD in biology 25 years ago, basically. Yeah. And then I joined AstraZeneca, and then we're supposed to work with data mining and predictive analytics at AstraZeneca in the context of drug development and biology. So that's where I started my AI journey 25 years ago. So I started 10 years at AstraZeneca doing predictive modeling on compounds, biology, safety, toxicity, all these kind of things.
It was still AI, and it was still healthcare related in some way.
Yeah. Right. We never used the word AI, I think, at that point in time. It was predictive modeling, it was machine learning perhaps, or it was statistical modeling sometimes. AI was not a word you would use, I guess.
What do you think about the term AI today?
Yeah, I'm not really comfortable.
As a data scientist.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly.
Well, why is that? Tell me.
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably something from my childhood or something. When I think about AI, it's the robots and strange things. But it's also this about definition of AI, which is kind of weird. I'm not really comfortable with. I have seen a lot of different definitions. There comes more and more definitions from different places, and I don't kind of like all of them, I would say. So it's better to say machine learning. That's more specific, or data science. I think data science is really good.
Do you have a preferred definition of data science, by the way?
Yeah, but I think if you combine the word data and science, you have a scientific view on how to work with data. I think that is the sort of essence of AI, because it's very easy to think that developing AI and machine learning models is you program something. It's more kind of IT stuff. But really, I think it's more about understanding your data and preparing your data, understanding what are your the limitations and the possibilities with your data. What kind of models can you develop? When can you use them? And that's a scientific question, and it's not an IT question.
Yeah. I like either it can be the approach, the method you take to work with data, but it can also, I mean, for me at least, science, if you compare it to engineering, science is about building knowledge in some sense, and engineering about building products or value. And I think data science is about building knowledge from data. Right? Converting data that has no meaning or potentially some value to something that has knowledge, something that do provide value for whatever use case you think of.
Yeah.
So either it can be the method, as you say, the scientific approach to work with data, or it can be the goal, the purpose of simply trying to build knowledge from data. I like both.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Cool. And what happened after that? So you worked at AstraZeneca and you worked at different places, and you came to Sahlgrenska at some point in time.
Yeah, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I spent some time at Recorded Future, some startup, then Chalmers University of Technology, and doing some AI there, and then Sahlgrenska. So
I worked as data scientist, right, and research engineer at different places.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of where I'm. Working with scientific questions and applying machine learning. I think it's kind of basis what I've been doing.
You're a true expert. And then you came to Sahlgrenska, and how did that happen? Can you just describe what brought you there?
What brought me there? I think I've always had an interest for the biomedical stuff and the life science and healthcare as well. I mean, that's perhaps a little bit off where I've been working before, but sort of still interesting. And Sahlgrenska University Hospital, it's like there is a lot of research ongoing there, so it's in that sense I think it was very and then also interesting, because when I joined Sahlgrenska, it was the role I applied for was head of digital R&D. So it was a little bit broader than AI. It was supposed to work with IoT and VR, AR, and that. And
different kind of techniques.
Yeah, so exploring new digital techniques basically in healthcare setting.
So were you at the hospital or in the business scientific park?
At the hospital.
Yeah, at the hospital.
So it's very weird. I mean, you have the Sahlgrenska University Hospital, then you have the Sahlgrenska Academy, which is part of the Göteborg University, and the professors are also doctors, and you never know when they are doing what and so on. And then you also have Sahlgrenska Science Park.
Science Park, that's the one.
So there are so many different organizations, and it's a little bit blurry, to be honest. But University Hospital was my employer. I got the money from Sahlgrenska University Hospital.
So I was asking Magnus, how is it to work with doctors? I think that's a really good question.
Yes. To work with doctors.
Yeah.
I'm married to a doctor, so
you are.
So I'm really comfortable handling doctors. I know exactly how to handle them.
That's good, because I'm married to engineering.
Okay, so you know exactly how to.
And my father is as well. So.
But it's a medical doctor then, or is it another more PhD kind of doctor?
No, it's a medical doctor. So
a real doctor. I'm sorry, Anders.
A real doctor, exactly. So when you go, it's like when you go in the plane and say, "Do we have a doctor in the plane?" And Anders would raise his hand and say, "Yeah, sure,
exactly."
What algorithm do you want?
I can break into the computer, but I can't fix the heart.
Yeah, but that's a serious question as well, because I've met many officers in regions and healthcare working on the IT department or with digitalization in some parts, and even in AI healthcare projects. And we have a struggle between the professions in the hospitals and how they work together with those who drives those initiatives, applying AI or stuff like that. So how do you cope?
Yeah, how do I cope? I mean, it's a struggle all the time. I mean, we are working like entrepreneurs, I would say, within the hospital, trying to sell this idea. But I think it's important that we do not push things too hard on the wrong people. So, I mean, you have these kind of technically, or what call it, techno-positive doctors as well. There are a bunch of them, and it's increasing. It's very easy to work with them. Then you have the other part, which is perhaps not that positive. Conservative, and I guess it's the same in society, so it's really no different. But I think it's important that you take those that are not that positive also seriously and try to understand their concerns and
why their point of view.
Their point of view, exactly. Because it's easy to, if you only work with the positive ones, you get stuck there and think you are doing amazing things. But then when you come out in reality and try to implement something, you realize that is not the case.
So is there also a different part of the healthcare that are more mature regarding to AI? I'm thinking about radiology. We are talking about quite mature technology and use of AI there with this picture.
Exactly. I think image analysis, of course, and image diagnostics it's in a mature area when it comes to technology. Then when it comes to the profession's view of using technology, I'm not sure that.
Interesting.
No, I cannot say for sure. I haven't done a sort of scientific survey or anything about it. But
have you seen a trend though that people that may have been a lot, very conservative when it comes to technology and AI, perhaps now have increased interest because of ChatGPT and the broad adoption it has received?
Yeah.
Have you seen that? Or?
Yeah, I think we have such a huge sort of demand. People are coming with all their sort of use cases. Can I not use ChatGPT for this and this and this?
Isn't it annoying?
Yeah, it's kind of exactly. It's too much. It's too.
Ask ChatGPT yourself.
Yeah. No. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, OpenAI has really sort of democratized AI in that sense to everyone. It's really smart, but. A little bit annoying, to be honest.
It's brought it into the spotlight in a way that, before it was mainly researchers in more technology kind of driven areas and AI areas that knew about the potential, but now suddenly everyone understands because it's so easy to just put in text and get some answer and you see, shit, it knows a lot.
Yeah. I think when we look back on this period, I think perhaps we will say that Sam Altman and OpenAI did exactly they sort of broke the barrier for all the main public, basically.
Big inflection point in history.
Yeah, might be.
Can you just briefly explain as well, what is really the AI Competence Center at Sahlgrenska University Hospital?
Yeah, so we're a bunch of data scientists, mainly. At the moment, we are 7. We have been 10 at our peak. Now we are 7. So it's not a huge group, but it's a decent group. We have good critical mass, so to speak, when it comes to data science, and we're applying. And then we're both trying to make sure that we have the right sort of. We're building infrastructures and processes, but at the same time support concrete, specific clinical projects as well. So, sort of, we are trying to just make sure that the wheels are rolling when it comes to AI and.
How do you start on some project? Is it something that you propose, or do you get requests from the hospital, or how does it work?
I mean, we talked about ChatGPT, and we get a lot of proposals that could we use it, but I think we're also, to some extent, we're also coming with some proposals because we, as sort of AI specialist, we can see what's ongoing in the world on a more sort of. Not clinically specific way, so we can say that in AI in general, this is an interesting method. Could we perhaps test that in this clinical specific area? So I think we work both ways. And then as a group, we also have a lot of collaborations with other regions, AI Sweden. We also have international collaborations, so we can get sort of bring in new technologies and try to test it. So we drive sort of from a technology point of view, perhaps we drive that, and then the clinicians might be interested in as a use case, but also the other way around, the clinicians come with their use cases and we make sure that we or see whether we can help them out.
So are you a sort of a project management hub, or you are more like the competence needed if we want to apply AI?
Yeah, I think at the moment we're both. I realized that we focus quite a bit on technology and getting data scientists in because we didn't have that competence at all at the hospital when we started. So, and that was really crucial, I think, to have that, because before it was good working with Anders and those guys, but that was on a project basis, and when that project finished, I mean, it's very easy that sort of this get just put in a drawer somewhere and you forget about it. So So it's good to have this this kind of continuity when it comes to data science and AI. But then I realized that it becomes a lot of project management type of things, and the data scientists that have to do both, and they are not really happy with it all the time. And I can really understand it, and that I think it's something we need to.
So
fix.
when I think about AI competence, because that's a great name for a team like that, but I'm thinking about other kind of competences as well, not only data scientists. So do you have any change management specialists as well?
At the moment, no. I think we really, or my intention was that we need to build this to get the sort of data science projects up and running, try to test some things, and then at the next step, closer to implementation, we need to have that type of skills as well.
But you have just been working for like 3 years. So you have been building up.
Yeah, exactly, building quite slowly. So yeah, but I think
it's not slow for
definitely. I think we need to broaden what the types of skills we have in the competence center, or we need to make sure that we get those skills from somewhere in the hospital. There are other groups that are quite used to work with, change management, for instance. There are other groups that can perhaps help us there. So, but that type of competence needs to be put into these AI projects as well.
If the competence center gets really successul, and I guess you believe that AI will be used increasingly in coming years in Sahlgrenska, right? Or?
Yeah, I hope so. No, but definitely, yeah.
Yes, I guess mainly, at least for foreseeable future, it will be like an assistant to doctors and other people, or even administrators or whatnot. That can make their work much more efficient. Is that what you see as the main path forward, or?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, I see there are, decision support for clinicians, of course. Louise, you talked about tools for radiologists to interpret radiology images, for instance. That is, use cases. We have a lot of those type of use cases, where it's like decision support. I think another low-hanging fruit is these kind of administrative things that you do in the hospital. A lot of just writing something, compiling something, transferring data from somewhere to somewhere, and
that's another kind of benefits for the whole organization.
Yeah, I mean,
sometimes it's easier with the integrity questions to work with those kind of.
Not just integrity question, also because we're a very highly regulated area, healthcare. So it's both like we're dealing with very sensitive personal data, but also patient safety is important when it comes to medical application. Patient safety is
the ethical question.
It's a number one. I mean, so if you don't have the patient safety to deal with, it's much easier to get things implemented. So the administrative purpose is a very low-hanging fruit, I would say. But I think in the long run, I would like to see that we automate more things. But in the short run, decision support is what we're going for, I would say.
I think it's a good way to start. And automate, I think it's a strong word. I mean, in some sense, yes, but I think at least in some part of the process, the human will be involved, at least at some point. Wouldn't you agree? Or?
Yeah, but actually we have one kind of speculative project. There is like a doctor in primary care where he wants to see whether you can bring more of the decisions to the patients, but with the help of a mobile phone with an AI solution. Yeah. So without involving healthcare.
But then you have a human in the other end, this part of the process at least.
There is like a patient, but that's another, that's a sort of trend, I think, in general when it comes to healthcare in Sweden or Western world. And more the patients should take more self-control, self-care.
So the human in the loop, that's what you are after. Yeah. So what's your point on that? So when you give the power, I would say, for your healthcare to the patient, is there in those project when you try to automate as much as you can, is there no human in the loop?
Oh, it's a tricky question. I'm not sure actually.
Speculative?
I mean, if you bring too much of the decisions to the patients, that's like a very ethical question. Not every patient can decide upon with them, and perhaps if they get decision support in terms of AI solutions in their mobile phones, it will sort of be more equal, but it will not be entirely equal. So I think that's a big question. So perhaps, I'm not sure, but to some extent I think it might be totally automated workflows. It's perhaps also sometimes preferable compared to having human in the loop all the time.
I could think about medical issues that would be nice not to involve a human.
Like what?
Yeah, I was thinking about what kind of examples. Well, quite easy, if you have a history, a medical history, and you know what, if you're breathing, for example, if you have asthma, then it could be quite troubling to book a time that you are available and the doctor is available, and you need just more meds. Or perhaps you just need to check how you are breathing. That could be I'm just making things up right now, but that could be a way to use no human in the loop.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about ChatGPT and using ChatGPT as a psychiatrist instead of and some people, I think I have seen studies where it's easier for some people to open up for a chatbot than a human being.
Yeah, they have those examples for kids, mainly boys, who has been attacked online when they're gaming in this grooming incidences. Yeah, and then have they shown it was Rädda Barnen, Save the Children, that organization that had a project, and they shown that boys would open up to a chat to talk about this disturbing experience that they have. And they would prefer that before they talk to a human, because then they felt it was more private.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's very interesting.
Yeah,
because me as a mother and as a scout leader, I love to talk to children, and I also believe that I am important.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting from an integrity point of view or privacy point of view. Is it more intrusive to have an AI, or is it less intrusive to have an AI hearing what you're saying when you speak about your issues? I think potentially it could be less intrusive, right?
Yeah, the feeling perhaps is less. Yeah. But what you do with the data perhaps is more. Yeah. So that's a tricky question.
And I've seen there's another study where you compare the physicians answering to patient questions and the chatbot answering, and then the chatbot scores higher when it comes to quality of answers, but also more empathetic than the doctors. So it's like, I don't know. So there,
awesome. I think I saw you write some article, if I remember correctly, about using AI as a robotic surgeon completely autonomously. Didn't you at some point?
I think it was like a pod at AstraZeneca where they asked, will there be a autonomous robotic surgeon? And it was like, probably not in the near future, but
okay. So
you didn't read the whole story.
No, I didn't read it. Okay, so the answer to the question, will there be an autonomous AI-controlled surgeon in near future? The answer is no, you would say?
I think it will be no, yes.
Would you be...
Long future?
Yeah. Long future, yeah. It's really hard to speculate. I mean, probably quite a number of surgeon what's called types of things that you do as a surgeon could be replaced by a robot, but I don't know.
It's hard to see that this question about the human in the loop. So if you don't have a surgeon observing the robot making the surgeon stuff, I think that would be ethically hard as well.
Yeah, I think at the moment, yes. I don't know. Within 10 years, perhaps we have sort of changed our minds a little bit, and we sort of accept these kind of technologies. But I don't know.
But do you think it may be similar if we compare it to self-driving cars? Today, I think we prefer to have a human behind the wheel of a cab. But perhaps in 10 years, we would be a bit scared about having a human behind the wheel and then prefer to have an AI driving it.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think? Yeah.
And laugh about it. Do you remember when you had to, park your car by yourself?
Yeah.
lol.
Yeah. No, I think it's also when it comes to using AI as decision support. I mean, I would trust the doctor that uses as much of the sort of available tools, also AI tools, as possible when he treats me, compared to not using that. I don't know if that analogy is if that's good enough, but I think that's another sort of way to see using this human in the loop at least.
Yes. I mean, as some people said, at least, if you look at the companies that will succeed in the future and those that won't, some people say that companies that don't take advantage of AI will certainly lose to the companies that do take advantage of AI. And perhaps that's a way to speak about surgeons as well, or medical people in the future. At least those that make the best use of it will succeed. Those that don't will not.
You should be afraid of people using AI if you want to have your job.
At least as an assistant, right?
Yeah, exactly. There is this quote from, I think Jeffrey Hinton said, I don't know, was it 5 years ago, something, that radiologists will be replaced by AI. Then he changed his mind, and then someone came up with radiologists that do not use AI will be replaced with radiologists that use AI. And I think that is a much better quote.
That's a better way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember having discussions about this as well, this specific quote. And I guess people refer to just being able to understand a CAT scan image of the brain or something. And then potentially that specific task of just understanding and doing the segmentation of the tumor or whatnot in the brain is potentially something that an AI already today can do better than humans. But that's not the whole process. You have to do the proper diagnosis, you have to do the proper treatment and then build up a treatment plan and whatnot. And that's perhaps not something that you want to let an AI do, or?
If you asked me 1 year ago, I would say no, that's not even possible, because we don't have that kind of AI tools. But I think nowadays, we do have this kind of, because that's what you explained first, is like this very narrow AI, which is perhaps what I was thinking about, how to use AI. It's like very specific, narrow use cases where we use
look at the images.
Yeah, but I think last year with all these large language models and coming towards something called artificial general intelligence, I think we're moving into something where it could do more of those steps that you just described. So
So there could be a future not too far away where we have AI writing the treatment plan as well.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we are at least writing the treatment plan and it's signed off by a human being in the beginning.
Right,
and then
right.
Yeah,
I think so too. And let's remember that the future are always going to surprise us.
Yes. Yep. What is the famous other quote? It's hard to make predictions, especially about the future.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. And you are working with very sensitive data, of course, in the medical setting. I guess that is causing some challenges. But I'm still surprised, that Sahlgrenska and others were participating in this kind of AI Sweden project early on and actually were able to produce data that we could use. Do you believe that the very sensitive data that you have in the medical setting is a serious concern, or is there ways already today to work with the data in a safe way?
I mean, definitely it's a serious concern. I mean, we need to be really cautious about it's like an obligation, I think, for us to be cautious about that type of data. Yeah. But I wouldn't say that it's like a total blocker at the moment. And I think also if we continue working on this, I think it will be even easier in the future. But of course we need to be, I mean, from an ethical point of view, it's really, really, we need to be really, really cautious about how we deal with this data, and we need to handle it really as secure and safe as possible. So we are dealing. We have a lot of we have a lot of projects where we work with what's called privacy preserving techniques, like federated learning, synthetic data generation, anonymization techniques is perhaps also something, and what it calls secure research environments or trusted research, secure research environment. I think it's the latest title, but having like a secure way of handling the data and having the processes in place, so the risk of something like a data breach will be, both the risk and the consequences will be as low as possible.
Perhaps we should unpack these terms because some people may not know or understand them. But if we take federated learning, for example, something that I worked with as well at some point in the past, how would you describe it? What is really federated learning?
Yeah, so federated learning means that, I mean, in the normal case, like what called, I don't know, central learning, central learning, and then you would need to put the data into one database or data lake, and there you sort of access it and do the analysis and do the machine learning. But the federated learning is more, the data is where it's located where it is, and then you bring sort of the machine learning algorithms to the data, and they work there. And then what's exactly shared between the different parties is the intrinsic of the models, like weights,
model parameters, basically.
Parameters and weights, etc. And that is like it's another representation of the data. I mean, which is perhaps less sensitive. So I would say it's like a risk minimizing technique, but I wouldn't say for sure that it's a way to anonymize data. It's a way to minimize the risks, at least, so de-risking. And I think it's enough to say that because this anonymization, it's really hard to, when something is 100% anonymized or not, that's really tricky.
So instead of moving data and sharing data, I guess, to another party or central location, you can simply keep the data at each hospital or each...
Yeah. So if you're a legal unit as a hospital, then you keep the data there, and then you just share the... So we have done such a project with Region Halland, for instance, that's within Sweden, and now we're working in a EU project where we will try to do that approach with different hospitals within Europe when it comes to rare cancers. So it's rare, so it means that it's, by definition, it's too little data to do machine learning model at each hospital. But if we do it together, we get decent performance, hopefully.
And then you have the other ethical question. If AI can be used to save lives, is it good to use it? Even if it's hard to anonymize, as you say. Yeah. Because then you have a true ethical question, I would say. That's also a moral one. So what's right to do as hospitals and scientists with those kind of techniques? What are your point of view on that? So if you can cure a rare cancer using this kind of technology, but not entirely say that no data is going to get off here.
Yeah.
So what's your point of view?
Yeah, I don't know. This has to be like in principle, I can answer that question.
Yeah.
But
that's a fun thing.
I think sort of my sort of standpoint in general is that we have an obligation to use the health data that we have to build a better healthcare and better society in general, I think. So if we start with that sort of mindset that we have that obligation to use the data that we have collected somewhere, I think that's a good starting point. But it's like you said, it's like you need to balance
the risks,
the risk with personal integrity towards developing healthcare and medical treatment, and that's really hard. I mean, I think it's a case by case, and we're kind of fortunate, I think, in the healthcare because we have these ethical approval committees. We at the hospital we have an ethical committee where we can sort of discuss these things, and so I think it's good that you bring these kind of questions to someone that are used to think about ethics. All the time, because that's for us as working with sounds kind of easy to just okay. I mean, of course, better healthcare is something that's really important. Let's go with that. But
can you just elaborate a bit more about the ethical committee? So how does that work in your use case?
I think when you're doing clinical research. Everything needs to be sort of ethically approved by a
committee.
Yeah, is it called a committee? I think there is a national authority. So it's like pass an ethical review, basically, where a number of people look at it and
so on a national level, or is it at the hospital level?
No, it's on a national level, which is, I think, a little bit specific to Sweden, because I know in other countries it's on a hospital level, and that is clinical research. And then we also do sort of other types of projects where we sort of just develop. Let's say the purpose is not to do to research and publish things in scientific journals, but just build things that make the quality of the healthcare better, and then we do not have to pass this kind of ethical review, but still we need to do some kind of ethical consideration, I think, but that we're doing at the hospital level in that case. And I think it's important to have this kind of ethical mindset. I mean, it's very easy to say we don't have legal grounds to do this and do that, but I think it's good to come back and think about what are our ethical ground to do anything, and then of course the legal things need to be covered as well. But
the legal thing is also based on ethical in the past.
Yeah, exactly.
So at some point in time, you thought that was the best way to solve a question that was raised from new technology and new development. So today we have to raise those kind of questions, and the way to do it is to have use cases, as you yourself are working with. So it's very interesting to have a ethical mindset also as a data scientist, I would say. Yeah,
and actually I think it's good because I have this discussion with companies for self-driving cars, and they are not used to thinking in this kind of balancing different ethical values, whereas we in healthcare have some kind of experience of doing that, which
because
makes
it's so close to you.
Yeah, we've always done that, and I think so that is sort of it's a benefit for us when we think about AI and ethics.
True.
Whereas other sectors might are struggling a bit, I would say.
Because it's also when you meet with decision makers and politicians, you can also talk to them about those kind of cases. When you say, if you have a rare cancer in Europe and you have to share data to solve the problem, but you can't solve the problem if you can share the data, then you have an argument why you should change the law. And if you also have a project working with it and funded by the EU, you have perhaps also the legislators with you, so they can see that, that's funded as well. So that's more like something that they would like to listen to. Yeah. So that's why those kind of projects are really important when you push the
I remember
the
actually a time at Beltorium, we got a question from a Chinese company. They were working with some kind of heart diseases. And they said basically, please collaborate with us. And we asked, do you have any data? Yeah. We had tens of millions of patients here in this. You can have it. I will send it to you. And it's like,
that's good.
Okay. And then you have to think, is that? I mean,
exactly.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
They have no problem sharing that data, but they have different laws in privacy. And then if we have our laws, we shouldn't accept it, I guess.
Yeah.
Right? No. And I also, I mean, as you said, Louis, I mean, it's like the regulations and legislation we have is based on our sort of ethics or values. And I guess perhaps it's a little bit different in China. There is like other, I mean, I think perhaps in China it's more like it's more like you put more emphasis on something that's good for society, perhaps towards what's good for the individual, whereas in Europe it's more kind of focused on the individual rights. So it's very different. So it's also different to, I guess, working with China. It's kind of really hard. We haven't tried that almost at all, I guess. But I mean, also in Europe, when it comes to GDPR and the interpretation of GDPR is different within different countries. So it's like someone said, it's like the colder the climate, the harder interpretation of GDPR, which means that we in Sweden are quite sort of stubborn when it comes to, whereas in Spain and Italy, it's like more. Oh yeah, we're
It's connected to the culture, perhaps in some way.
Yeah, perhaps. not the climate, more the culture.
Climate and culture. Yeah. Perhaps the climate influenced the culture.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, but I think it's so interesting that when you work with AI in healthcare, when you are working as a data scientist, as you do, you're really creating the future values, because what you bring forward to the table and to the processes in the hospital is new way to make the meeting with the patients and curing diseases and stuff like that. And then we as a patients, we start to get new ways to use the healthcare. So you're really creating new values for the future, and that perhaps is also changing the society's view on how you see on automation and use of AI and the human in the loop.
I
so
guess
it's really interesting.
I guess it's like a gradual change. I mean, things are changing over time, and it's the pace is really hard to forecast, I guess. But it's things will change at least.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
That's the only thing we know.
Yeah, change will come.
That's the fun thing about that.
Yeah. Perhaps we will have. We have the organ donor registry.
Yeah.
Perhaps we should have like AI data donor registry.
I would love that.
Yeah, exactly. I think that would be.
Consent is a big issue in Sweden.
Yeah.
We have strictly with an opt-out system would be much better. Yeah. So you have to, contact someone to not get your health. You don't agree? No? Do you have another point of view on that?
No, but I would love to have a way for me to say, please use my medical data to improve whatever kind of AI system. I would sign it directly. So I wish I had a way to do it, I guess.
Yeah. But I to
What's
continue this,
yeah?
I mean, consent is trouble. I mean, it's good in one way because it sort of protects the individual rights, either if it's opt out or opt in. But on the other hand, from a scientific point of view, you get your data set is biased, more or less. I mean, you don't know. So how much or how general is your AI model based on that data set is something you need to consider. And
exactly.
So it's a tough question. I mean, from a scientific point of view, I know I would like to have exactly all data but then you need to balance it with the individual rights and personal integrity. So it's tough.
I would love to switch to another question. And you sent actually an interesting article. I didn't read the full article. I read the abstract, but I think the conclusion of the article was surprising to me, at least. I guess you know what I'm speaking about, explainable predictions or explainable AI, and the value or connection it had to... please, if you were to describe it, what was the article about?
Yeah, so I think what caught my sort of attention was this using explainable AI, of course, because I know that has been sort of very much of a focus when we talk about accepting using AI and But then when they performed a sort of a clinical study where they used AI, explainable AI, or peers like their trained colleagues, and so if a doctor do it by themselves, or if they get support from an AI or an explainable AI or from a colleague, so what would be the quality of the results basically, and it was you got a better quality of the results if you talk to your colleague, because that you get another second opinion. If you use the AI, even better.
So the AI was better than the colleague.
Yeah, in this specific case, yes. But then using explainable AI it wasn't the quality didn't increase at all.
So if I understand it correctly, it basically was you have a medical doctor, they have the choice to either just make the decision themselves, or they can use some AI, or they can use AI with explainable AI, or they can use suggestion from some colleague or help from some colleague.
Yeah.
And then the best way was to use with AI, better than a colleague. But adding explainable AI didn't really add any trust from the medical doctor.
No, I think my interpretation is that sort of the uptake of using AI wouldn't benefit by using explainability in that case.
Isn't that strange, though?
Yeah, it might be, but I think if you think about a doctor and think whether they are prescribing drugs or pharmaceuticals for a patient, for instance, they do not understand the full mechanisms, how that drug works from a biological point of view or pharmaceutical point of view. They know that this drug works with this sort of indication, and I know there is this is a validated thing. I can trust this because I know that it has been validated through this kind of quality or validation process where FDA or European Medical Agency, for instance. And that's enough. They don't really need to understand exactly what's going on in the body. They just know that this is something I should use, and then they use it. And I was thinking that perhaps should be it's the same within using AI or medical technology. It doesn't need to be. I mean, if you have you create a trust by something else than the explainability. You create it by some kind of validation processes, or
so you build up like a subjective feeling about this kind of system. Machine or a human is something I trust, and that is the main point rather than...
Yeah, it's a subjective feeling, but it's built on objective scientific evidence, basically. Yeah. And I think that is the way forward for us as well. We're using AI in medical medical settings.
So you can have like certificates or standards that you have to meet in the AI technology to have it proven, and then if you use it, you have the trust.
Yeah, exactly. So we like a proven validation pipeline, and with gold standard data sets, etc., where everyone agreed, or a lot of people, not everyone, but some agreed upon way of doing this. And if it passes this, it's something we trust, and it's something we can use. And then I think most doctors would actually accept that. I that is my guess, at least.
It's more to how they work today. Yeah, because they don't know everything, as you said, about the drugs. They trust that the drugs are validated. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is one analogy that but I'm not sure. I mean, this is something we can discuss.
What do you think, Anders?
Yeah.
What is your point of view?
By the way, I found the name of the paper. If someone wants to read more, I think it was called "Quantifying the Impact of AI Recommendations with Explanations on Prescribing Decision Making" or something. Anyway, I'm thinking about Jan LeCun here, and to me he's a big hero, but I disagree with him on some topics. And one of the topics was that he's not in big favor of explainable AI. He even said at some talk, explainability, schmittability or something, like really like just whatever, it doesn't matter. and now, normally I think, I would like to see some explainability or understand at least what part of the text or the image did the model look at to do the prediction it did. At least to me, it would add trust or understanding. But this paper is really a good point, and I'm potentially changing my mind here. And perhaps Jan LeCun was right after all.
No, you mean this is one paper, and I mean it's one study, and you need to have other studies as well. But I think it's like a good.
It's a good example.
Discussion point, because and I do believe explainable AI has a good purpose when it comes to developing AI models. As a AI developer using explainability in that process, I think it's really, really important to understand.
Somewhere you need explainability in the process.
But for troubleshooting, I think it's really good. To try to understand, why did the model make a erroneous prediction? In that case, it's really useful. But I guess when you use it...
But as a user, perhaps not. Or then you need... But because you have to rely on others, other professionals, other validation systems and processes. You have to do that because all of our society is built on trust. And, when you buy a beer and you can read stuff on this... and it says a lot of different things that you don't know exactly what it is, but someone does. So perhaps that's another way to put it.
Yeah. This was one study, and perhaps it's like different use cases. You have different. You need different types of explainability. So, but I think it's interesting to discuss it because it has been like not a hype about explainable AI, but it's really something that's felt important when it comes to uptake of AI and explainability is sort of married together more or less, and I'm not sure that's the case all the time, at least.
If I could, I would like to move quickly, or I guess it won't be that quickly, into the regulatory field, because AI Act I think has a transparency requirement for high risk AI system, and it basically requires you to be transparent about why you're making a certain prediction.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically requiring explainable AI.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't quite agree in that case. I mean, but then I think transparency when it comes to AI Act means so much more. I mean, transparency when it comes to what data set you used, what methods you used, what process you used. So it's the transparency term in AI Act is broader than just the explainable. But I do not quite agree in that when it comes to explainability, I would say.
Yeah. I'm starting to think that more and more as well. It's very.
Who is going to read all those files that are going to be put up there?
Yeah, exactly.
In the name of transparency? That's my question.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
for whom?
Yeah.
I don't want. It's easy to get stuck now in AI Act and regulatory field, but let's try to not get too stuck there. But still, what's your general thought about the AI Act?
Well, I think it's another regulation we need to understand and take care of. So we already have. We are sort of. I think I mentioned that before. We are a highly regulated area, and we're in healthcare, and we already have what's called medical device regulation that takes care a lot of how you need to build like the medical devices, the AI tools. So we already have like a very heavy piece of regulation, and now comes AI Act. I think there might be sort of overlaps, but I'm sort of fearing that they are not sort of. I think it's important if the medical device regulation and AI Act are sort of as coordinated as possible. I'm not entirely sure exactly how it looks like, but I'm a little bit scared that there will be two regulations, two processes that we need to take care of to be able to.
I think the overlap factor that you speak about is interesting, because we have so much other regulation that prevent hate speech or people conducting some kind of harmful intent physically or mentally. And sometimes you wonder, doesn't those already cover most of what AI Act is trying to do? Would you agree with that, or?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and the other point of view is that I think regulating a specific technology is also not a good way of handling things, because it brings down much to standards and definition of what is AI, and there are a lot of things.
I think they didn't know what to regulate. No. I think that's the question. They started too early, so they was like, well, let's start with what is AI. Yeah, and that's the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think we all agree that the intent of the AI Act is good. I mean, trying to ensure that we use AI in a beneficial way and in a trustworthy way, and we minimize the harm of AI. I mean, I think
that's so super important. But the problem is when you go into, what kind of techniques and in what kind of use cases. Because as we said before, for the last year we have learned so much more about AI. And also it's become a part of every day life. And the discussion in school, we have this, pupils are going to cheat in education, and that raised that question. So are you really going to try to stop kids from using AI?
And as I said in the beginning, I'm not really keen on the word or using AI at all or on the definition. I'm not keen on either. So I don't like the AI Act at all in that sense. But I agree that I think we need some kind of framework or regulation to not do harm. Basically, I think that's like a good basis.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the intent is always great, as for GDPR, but. Then you have to think about the implementation as well and make sure it's implemented in a proper way.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens. We don't know yet how the final product will look like.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be a help for our society to have a trustworthy AI. So it's also how we implement the AI Act. And as we have learned in Sweden, we are quite good on, using those acts like GDPR and now AI in very, very, we are so afraid to do the wrong things. So that's mainly my concern. So perhaps we have to also work with those AI Act implementation in Sweden. Would you agree?
So you're scared that AI developers will stop developing AI because they do not really know what if they are breaking the law or not.
Yes, that they will be not using the curiosity that we need or the courage that we need, because we have to have some projects and initiatives going further and before others. And the problem in Sweden that everybody is looking to someone else to do it the first time.
Yeah,
and that's a problem.
But I really like the last couple of weeks regulation when it comes to the Bletchley Park Agreement, actually trying to find a global agreement, not just in the EU but throughout the world.
Yeah,
that's really good.
Countries all over the world and with companies as well, trying to find something that everyone can agree on. Because it's so hard to just have a specific company or country to implement a regulation without having other countries leaping ahead without those. But actually having some kind of global agreement, I think, is an awesome way forward.
I think that's great. But where were the Swedes?
Yes, it's a very good question.
That's my question.
Yes.
Where were you, Anders? Where were you? Were you here?
Yeah, no. But I wish some Swedish government representative were there for sure.
They weren't.
They weren't.
No.
No.
Oh, they were not invited, or they didn't go?
I don't know. Perhaps someone was there, but you haven't heard so much about it in Sweden. So.
No.
All right. So, that is not it. It's time for AI News, brought to you by AIAW Podcast.
Cool. So, time for some middle break here, and we're just going to have a small section where we speak about some recent news articles that happened, and each one of us can pick one or two articles that we want to speak about. And we're trying to keep it short, a couple of minutes per article. We usually fail, but we'll do our best to keep it short. Anyone that wants to go first? I have one favorite article for sure. I have some others as well, but one that I love to speak about. Anyone else that wants to go first, or should I try?
You do it.
Yes. So, DeepMind, of course, once again, but they came out with an article about AGI, and trying in a scientific way to properly define what is really AGI, artificial general intelligence. And I have really lacked that kind of definition. And it also comes back to you, Magnus, dislike of AI as a term, because it's so hard to define. But now finally someone is properly trying to define what AGI really means. So they did it by trying to, for one, compare different definitions of AGI, and I'm not going to go through all of that, but they did it in a way similar to self-driving cars. So in self-driving cars you have like 5 levels of self-driving, where level 5 is full self-driving without even having the possibility for a human to take control, and you don't even have a wheel or gas pedal to take control with, and it's probably fully automated. So then they defined these kind of levels of AGI, and they compared narrow AI to general AI. So they have like a table, and then saying level 0 is no AI at all, and then level 5 is like superhuman AI. And basically level 1 is something that's better than an unskilled human, and then you had level 2, you're better than the 50th percentile, like an average human, of skilled humans. And then you had something above 90th percentile of skilled people, and 4 was like 99% of all people. And then level 5 is basically 100%, better than any human ever. And they said for narrow AI, we do have level 5 AIs. So they said examples like AlphaFold, doing protein folding, for example, is significantly superior to whatever any human can do today. and Stockfish and AlphaZero, like playing chess. There is no way that any human ever could beat a machine today in playing chess. So there is clearly some level 5 AIs out there when it comes to narrow AI, very specific tasks. But for AGI, for general intelligence, they say that it's only level 1 today. So for level 1, which is the level 0 is basically no AGI at all. So they do think there are some general AI, but only on level 1. And that is basically the ChatGPTs and Bards and Llama 2s and these kind of large language models that we have today. So they basically saying that at the AGI level, we're better than the somewhat unskilled human in general tasks. And I think that's a really interesting thing. I hear some people saying that ChatGPT is already, AGI is here. No, it is not. And I certainly don't think so myself. I'm not sure what do you think if ChatGPT is an AGI already.
So do you mean that this is the definition, you have to be on a certain level to be considered as a
proper AGI would be that we have level 5 AGI and we only have, according to this paper, level 1 AGI. So better than an unskilled human, basically. And I think that's interesting. Mm-hmm. And then they had another scale as well, which is more autonomy. So then they had level 0 to 5 as well when it comes to, this is the AGI levels. But then they had another one further down the paper speaking about autonomy. And I think this is actually even more interesting potentially, saying if you have autonomy level 0, then no AI is involved at all. Humans do everything. And then when you go up the levels at level 5, you do have the full self-driving experience. Basically, there is no way that human even is involved. Yeah, here it is. There is autonomy level 5. So that means that it is completely autonomous. No human is involved in the process of doing something. Now, the reason I think these autonomy levels are interesting is I think autonomy is harder than general tasks. Mm-hmm. I potentially think that a full self-driving car like a Tesla that is getting increasingly autonomous is certainly not at level 5. But to have not only perception, I think the ChatGPTs basically have an awesome world model. They have an awesome perception, ability to understand text in different ways, which is really awesome. But it's just the perception. If you want to do something, you also need to plan something, to have the reasoning to plan something, and you need to control something. So for a car, you have the perception, the cameras, and you can turn it into vector space, as Elon Musk calls it. And then you have the planning, and then you have the control. And in version 12 of the FSD, they basically have neural nets for all of that. And that is getting something closer to something that is AGI in terms of they can do any task. Yeah. So my favorite way of testing this is basically to say, if I can't think of a single task that the AI can do better, then we have AGI. Today it's super simple to say, what can ChatGPT not do? Well, it can't, cure cancer, or it can't go out and write a treatment plan in a good way. It's so easy to find, so many different things it cannot do. So it's so far away from having AGI at level 5. So, and especially if you connect it to the physical world, to robotics, something that is embodied in the physical world, which is super hard. Then, Tesla actually do have a car. They even have the Tesla bot, which is a humanoid robot. So they have also the connection to the control aspect. So they actually have connected the perception, the planning, and the control, but for a narrow task. Anyway, I think it's super interesting to have this kind of finally some scientific definition and reasoning about what is really AGI and how far have we come so far.
That's really interesting. So is it useful, do you think, with this kind of definitions when working with things you do?
I think it's getting more and more useful to...
We like AI terms?
Yeah.
Working with science?
Yeah, exactly. No, if it's based on science, I think it's good, of course. I think I need to contemplate a little bit about these kind of all these levels and the different scales. But and also I think I'm not sure what is the purpose of having or thinking about AGI. I mean, for me, it's like, is there a use of at all? I mean, practical use of thinking about it. I mean, for me, it's like, can we create a artificial general doctor? Or I mean, and that is, it's not general, but it's kind of semi-narrow kind of thing. So I don't know. I mean,
if you take a radiologist, for example,
yeah,
the AI that we have today that is narrow simply can look at a single image and do the segmentation, I guess.
yeah,
But what you want to have is an AI that can be much more general, to actually do the proper diagnosis as well, to build up the proper treatment plans, to even speak to the patient and perhaps have a, what do you call it in medical term, the bed manners or the social abilities to have the proper psychological discussion with the patients as well.
It's like multi-functions
yeah.
in AI.
But I mean, that AI do not have to drive a car. Or I mean, there's like somehow it's kind of narrow, perhaps quite broad, but it's some sort of limitations at least. What it's supposed to handle.
Sometimes, if you take the full self-driving car, we get stuck in this topic. But it's kind of interesting. I think some people claim that as you go to the limit in the time of self-driving car, it requires you to have a world model in some way. It requires you to not understand that you have cars in different lanes or that this is a pedestrian or whatnot. It suddenly requires you to know everything about the world to do proper full self-driving, because it is a surprisingly difficult task. And perhaps the same can be argued for a radiologist, that if you really want to have a doctor doing also the difficult edge cases that you have, it more or less need to have a full understanding of the world or a proper world model to do that. And then it becomes surprisingly general. Yeah. Even if you just want to drive a car or do a treatment plan and help a patient.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I get your point, but I do see also that the more you come towards the sort of edge of what this sort of AI is supposed to be, the less likely it is that this will ever be used. Or so I mean, self-driving cars, you need to understand the world around you and all these kind of things, and there might come an elephant suddenly, and it's a very low risk, but it might come.
Or you have an ethical dilemma of here is a child and a dog, and I need to know which one to run over. Yeah. Suddenly it requires a lot of...
That's a hard question.
Right.
Yeah, so exactly. How would a human being...
Yes. Then you come really close, I think, to having like a general world knowledge and ethical knowledge to solve it.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's based on well, that's quite... It is a disturbing example. But if you are a human who doesn't like children and love dogs, I'm just saying...
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of understand that feeling. I have 4 kids and 1 dog.
Yeah, I have 4 kids and 2 dogs.
Two dogs.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. Cool. When do you think we will have AGI, Magnus?
To be honest, never. Not in my lifetime, at least. I think that's a simple answer.
I think earlier, but much earlier.
All right. Yeah. Cool.
What do you think, Louise?
Well, who lives will see.
It's a very diplomatic answer.
Yes, I know.
Cool. Do you have a topic?
Well, I had I ran over this topics from University of Stockholm. They had an information about a new project that they have, science project about global steering of AI and the democracy challenges that there is. And I was so happy about this because I have really seeked for initiatives that doesn't talk about ethics in AI only in this kind of ethical questions that we just did, like children, dogs, or weapons, or automated processes. Actually, this project, they had got like 6.4 million kronor from Vetenskapsrådet here in Sweden, and they will try to find some kind of a way to a framework, I would say, to help us see what kind of impact does this AI have on the society, and what kind of globally, like the human rights, do we need in developing AI, and also how does we pull the values in the society globally. And you were also talking about this summits that now arise, where you talk with governments and business and scientists talking about the implication of using AI in society. And this is one of the things that I have been missing for many, many years. Not only talking about AI from a data perspective, but also from a science, social science perspective. So I was really happy about this. And what are your point in that, Anders? Coming from this more data science and AI, have you also, as me, lacked the discussion in other areas in science, like those?
So let me see if I understood you correctly. So thinking of AI from a more social point of view, or thinking from AI in what kind of? Can you just elaborate a bit more?
Yeah, how it's a framework for governments, basically. So it's the ethic on and where and how to use AI, and from a democratic point of view. So if you compare it to human rights, the human rights rise in our society from the 50s after Second World War. And we had a problem with how to make sure that everyone in the world has some kind of equal rights. And then there were no AI. So when AI arose and the use of data economy, and also the national boundaries are not not like they were. So when we see as a global citizens, so do we need a framework how to look for a more democratic way of using AI? Another example is that Sweden is a country that we have Magnus, and we have Sahlgrenska, and we have people like you working with AI in a certain way. But in Sweden we are quite...
so we want equal access, I guess, to the power of AI in some way. And people that do have AI will have large number of benefits that people that do not have AI in the future. And then the question is, should it be a human right in some case, or
and do we need human rights also when we talk about the use of AI and the data?
Yeah, tough question.
It's really interesting. I mean, there are so many sort of basic values that we need to discuss now. I mean, that we didn't discuss the last years, but like 1 year ago, we didn't discuss this, but now we do it because the development is happening so fast, and it's. I mean, what is? I think also like as a human being, are you entitled to have a work to go to? That is, or if AI takes over or everything, so there's just a few people that do something productive, and all the others just float around or watching Netflix at home. Is that the society we want to have, or how would that affect individuals, or what is your right as an individual to go to work and do something productive? I mean, I don't know. There are so many things that could be discussed or should be discussed around this, which is.
What's your thoughts?
Well, I think that you can put this in also a perspective in where the world are heading, and I think that we need the world would really need a discussion about the morality in the use of technology to the benefits of both the environment, but also for humans not to kill each other, I would say, basically. But also that there are inequalities in how we use the resources. And if you want to, use a lot of batteries or or other tech materials to increase the use of AI and tech and data. You're a quite rich country, and it affects the other parts of the global. So, of course, this is not only a question for Sweden or for Europe. I think that you should probably need some kind of framework and discussion about the ethics about using AI. Because if we do it in our hospitals, as we have been talking about this hour, then perhaps we will have a different labor market in the future. And other countries that doesn't have this way of having healthcare, they will be lacking behind. And we would use a lot of more resources. So one question is how do we prevent the world to be more unequal?
Yeah.
I know this is a big question, but we are drinking beer and having a nice conversation. But I think that's quite interesting. And what I really appreciate is that there are some science projects focusing on this, because we have had a lot of focus on applying AI and also those kind of ethics around weapons and anonymity or stuff like that.
Yeah, really good, like philosophical question almost. But I guess it will be potentially like a class differentiator in some way, the people with and without access to AI in some way.
Yeah, but I guess the adoption, I mean, I think about, okay, we in Sweden or the Western countries, we have our healthcare system and everything is very rigid and very hard to change, whereas in, I don't know, third world countries where it's not, but when you get sort of automation, you get an AI or an app which can help you with your disease. Basically, you can cure yourself.
Yeah.
Then the adoption will be much faster when it comes to, in Sweden it will take forever and ever. Yeah. So I think there's like also this kind of, it's not a divide, but it's not just.
Perhaps we are the one who is going to be left behind.
Yeah, it might be. I mean, when it comes to banking, for instance, we had in Sweden we had this kind of, but whereas in other countries where the bank system was not, they immediately went to the mobile phone and had.
Exactly.
So there's like things happening.
You can leapfrog in some cases.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Africa was an example of that. They just skipped over the landlines and just went to mobile phones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And China is a really big country, and they are using AI and tech in their society in a whole different way.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
And we have this face recognition discussion here in Sweden. And we feel in our guts that that's probably wrong. But then the Internet Stiftelsen, they had a really interesting report now for some weeks ago. And they shown that I think it was nearly 50% of the Swedish population thinks that face recognition in camera society is a good thing.
Interesting.
And that's really interesting. So perhaps the values also are shifting.
It will be interesting to see correlation between last year's report and this year's report, because this year we have like quite a lot of as well reasons why people would like to have it.
Yeah,
right.
It was. I think that it was a shift in mind shift.
Because if you see, security has been a major news and a basically actual topic in Sweden this last year. So I think there is like a good correlation between that report and what is happening in the society right now.
Awesome. I see we're speaking far too long at each news topic here. But
I'm sorry for that.
No, it was my fault. I spoke the longest, I think. Yeah. Magnus, do you have any news article?
I think mine was the explainable AI. So okay. Sorry about that. I didn't bring another one.
No, that's perfect. Goran, do you have anything?
All right. So I will do a short news, several ones, so we don't have to argue on all of them. It feels like every episode, like we're doing commercial for 3 companies. and we are not paid for it.
Right. Should get
Oh,
paid for
4,
it.
including Tesla, right? So
Yes.
I think we should get paid just basically talking about these companies. But this is what is happening in the AI area right now. You have some of the giants just basically running, and we are just looking from aside and seeing what is going on. So these are the 7 actually news that I have, short ones. So it's a battle between Microsoft, OpenAI, and Google, I would say. So Microsoft, following the OpenAI announcement of basically every user to be able to do their own ChatGPT, which was called the OpenAI developer, I think.
Yeah,
so
GPT
now builder, yes, exactly. So now Microsoft actually has done the same in the Microsoft Suite. So you have something which is called Microsoft Copilot Studio. So you will be able to do your own copilots in Microsoft. Continue with OpenAI. Basically, it's now official rumor that they're working on ChatGPT 5. We should be coming up next year, end of next year, 2024. The discussion regarding is actually, okay, so they're still bleeding money, so the money needs to come from somewhere, and I guess they will need to get a little bit more money from Microsoft in order to develop that, especially because of the latest rumor as well, that they're trying to get recruits from Google, Meta, and different, especially from recruits offering packages up till from 5 to 10 million actually for people transferring from Google to OpenAI. So the war for talent is on open field right now. On a similar way, but a little bit, we were talking last week actually that nobody's talking about traditional AI. Anymore. So Google obviously is thinking about that very much. So I think it was yesterday or the day before, Google DeepMind presented a new traditional machine learning model that was predicting weather more accurately than everybody else. And you can actually have this on your computer. So this was quite exciting things to have. And if you see...
First time we have a news that is not generative AI.
Yes, exactly. And I think it's so nice. And I think that there is something with this news that I was reading about Google is very interesting how they're implementing all of these new things in their products, reinforcing their products without actually being so loud. So, for example, they updated Google Maps with 5 new features. So now you have an immersive 3D view. You have search with AI in the Google. You have EV charging stations now in Google, so you don't have to search for them anymore. You have navigation AI enhancement, and then you have new augmented reality features that is added. All of that is not ChatGPT. Some of them are, or not ChatGPT, but generative AI. Some of them are traditional ones. And as well, they're looking to buy something which is called a company called Character.ai, which actually makes like characters based on an LLM model, so you can have your Elon Musk that is speaking with you.
Who wants that?
Well, I think it's if you look at what is going on. So Meta started building their own some characters, and Microsoft is doing the same, and now I guess Google is going to the same thing. And that was it from my side. So it was actually 6; it was not 7. So I'm done for this week.
It's been a week of co-piloting.
Yes, I think that everything that is happening right now is just LLMs, but surprisingly, we had one traditional AI. So
my colleague has gone bananas with those studios.
Yes, I have as well. Yeah. So I have mine. The first one that I built, it was called Bobby, which is my conference producer buddy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I'm doing onboarding now for one of the new producers that we have in the company. So I was thinking like, well, I'm using all of this week actually just in training. So why don't I just record myself, transcribe that, and just add it into the chat GPT to Bobby, and then I train Bobby with the production process. So now I have it all the time. So if somebody asks me questions, like talk to Bobby.
Oh, that's excellent.
Are there any, I guess we could go generative, any good like generative AI use cases you think in Sahlgrenska that you have been thinking about?
So we are working on a number of them. I mean, as I mentioned before, people come and ask, say, could we use ChatGPT for this? And sometimes yes, and sometimes perhaps it's like this traditional AI or good good old-fashioned AI. That's these kind of more traditional methods that actually works best. But we do have a number of generative or ChatGPT type of projects. So one is where we're trying to. I mean, we're working with. We are actually implementing in healthcare now the speech-to-text functionality, which is perhaps not that fancy, but within healthcare it's like huge step. But then
Whisper or something, right?
Yeah, it's not Whisper. It's a company called Nuance, owned by Microsoft. But it's but that's a huge step. But then we think, what else can we? But because just transcribing into text is one thing. But what else can we do something smart with the text? And there we have done a lot of things with ChatGPT and trying to just sort out and structure that text and also create like summaries of what was that dialogue or discussion about, and also making decision support for a doctor, so the doctor knows what more questions should I ask the patient, what have I missed, what are some suggestions of diagnosis that I need to consider, and what tests should I take to rule those diagnoses out or confirm them. So so we have tested a lot of on this, but that is kind of a speculative project, because I don't think we will ever put our development project into production. I think I'm pretty sure there will come like a vendor that has this kind of solution built in, like the speech to text company, for instance. I think have something similar coming soon. Works perhaps in English, but probably will work in Swedish in the future. So. But we also have these kind of more simple things like searching the intranet documents using.
Aren't those really valuable?
Yeah, I think that
those simple in implementation.
Yeah, exactly. I think that those are the sort of low-hanging fruits, and those that will give you return of investment more.
Yeah.
Perhaps they are not that fancy and not that for showcasing, but
people will love that, making the workload so much easier.
Yeah. Summarizing documents. We have a lot of routines that are quite similar but not exactly similar, and can we compile them and get a summary of the routines, for instance. That is a very simple thing, but it's something definitely we would like to have.
Have you looked into this using audio, listening to a conversation between a doctor and a patient and then report it into the journal? Do you have any kind of project like that?
Yeah, I think what I described before was kind of not reporting it into the journal, but preparing it for reporting into the journal. So that is like
the next step.
Yeah, and I definitely think that functionality will come to our somehow within our systems within not too far future. So I think it's more like preparing our organization for this type of functionality that will come, and then a vendor probably will come and deliver it for us, because it's. That's the way forward. I think we will build some models, but not these kind of more advanced. It's better to trust the vendors.
That's an interesting discussion topic, actually, I think. So if you find some kind of potential use case and you build some prototype and you think this is something that we want to really productionize and make scaled out use of, how would you go about doing it? Would you have a consultant, some other vendor coming in, building the solution, or how would you do it, I think?
I think it depends very much on what type of application it is. Like I think we mentioned before, like patient safety, like these kind of medical applications, that requires quite a bit before they are really sort of certified or they are okay to start using, and that is a very resource demanding. You need put a lot of effort in there, and so we are a little bit hesitant. So when we do something that is a proof of concept with medical AI, it's either supposed to generate like a scientific publication, it's research, and that's fine. I mean, that we're a university hospital, we should produce research, and that's good. I mean, it's a benefit for society and to understand more and get more knowledge about something. Or the other thing is that we sort of do the proof of concept and understand that this is a conceptual, this is a way to work, and it's something good.
But you primarily do the proof of concept and write an article, or do you actually build products as well?
We build products as well, but it's perhaps mostly for administrative purposes and not these kind of medical purposes so much. So, I mean,
would you like to do more medical processes?
Yeah, I definitely would like to, but I is also a little bit realistic and understand that it's But then again, I think we also have this kind of belief within our organization that it's too difficult to do and it costs too much, but we haven't tried it yet. So I think we should actually try it and see whether is it that difficult, or could we actually cope?
So is it also a culture thing?
Yeah, definitely. I think it is.
Mm.
It's very easy that there is like a rumor starting in something, and so something becomes like a truth.
Yeah.
And you need to challenge the truth as well,
Mhm.
I guess. So it's so I think testing, I mean, experimenting, exploiting, that's really.
But it comes to a state where it's a problem with all those concepts and proof of concepts not scaling and making it into production. So if you don't try it, or if you don't go ahead with a project like that, isn't that a problem for the healthcare in the long run? Not in the short terms, because you learn a lot, but if you want to be this AI Competence Center that also bring forward new way of deliver healthcare. So what do you think about that? How to scale up?
How to scale up? Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, turning to vendors, of course, is one. So if we do a proof of concept and we understand this is a good functionality, we can go out to vendors and be a good
Partner.
we partner, or we can describe what we want, and then we could perhaps do some. Either we do it together, or we can buy something, or so that is one way forward. I guess the other would. I mean, it depends. I mean, when we talk about medical applications again, I mean that is a tricky area, but these more kind of administrative planning type of things, there we can of course scale up as we want to, because that is less problematic in that sense.
But I actually like that you have so good insight into the problems of taking something to production. So many people think that, I have a working prototype.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
I took this kind of repo from GitHub and I made it run. Now I'm ready for production, and no problem integrating that into the rest of the systems.
Yeah.
Well, that's the hard part.
That is 100 times more difficult and more time consuming, I would say, than trying to build a prototype. So it is tough.
And
I
also
guess,
to change the culture and how they look at this kind of new projects. Because as you said, you have to have some of those kind of project in the healthcare to move also decision makers and politicians in the right way. So if you don't have it, then it's going to be just a conversation piece.
Yeah, exactly.
In the future as well.
Yeah. I mean, from a technical point of view, it's challenging, and we have worked. We have like a MLOps pipeline and these kind of things. But there are so many things around more than just technicalities that are important to bring something into production, and then making it accepted by users and start using. That's even further, even more complicated.
I mean, the organizational change and making people change the way of working that they have, I mean, that is really hard at some points. And especially, I think, in a medical setting where so many doctors are a bit conservative and, we have done it in this way in 20 years and we will continue to do it.
Yeah. But perhaps this news that we just listened to with the co-pilots and services like that are going to help people, the general people, we who work with documents and stuff like that, to start to use AI and then think that, we can do this also in other processes.
Yeah, exactly.
Perhaps it's going to help us.
Yeah, I mean, we use AI more and more in society, so that will also, of course, benefit healthcare and bring AI forward in healthcare, I guess. So.
I think that's one really good thing with ChatGPT, that it actually brings the attention and the want to use it in everyday setting for more and more people.
Yeah.
And just thinking a bit more concretely, I mean, you have so sensitive data. Would you even be able to use like OpenAI's commercial API and send the data to it? Or, I mean, I guess not, right?
Not patient data, no. We are quite strict about, or we are try to be quite clear with our people or employees at Sahlgrenska that you should never send any patient data or sensitive data to OpenAI. So we do have there are other options, but we're still sort of exploring a little bit how we do it. So patient data is sort of out of the question for the moment when it comes to using GPT.
And I know for Microsoft and Azure cloud services, at least, they have some kind of enterprise API that they are supposed to be completely safe and not sending data or not training on anything. Do you think that would be an option potentially for Sahlgrenska?
Yeah, we have started using that, but we haven't sent patient data yet. But we do have that sort of enterprise GPT in Azure, so we do have that possibility. I think it's a matter of, and I do since the summer and the agreement between US and Europe, I think these kind of things has sort of opened up, and we do have that possibility again. But we need to do the proper sort of risk assessment, and we need to know what we're doing basically. And if this is the first time we do something like sensitive like that, we need to do it in a proper way, I guess. So
yeah, and build the knowledge within the organization is very important.
Yeah,
of course.
yeah.
And I know you have to leave sharply or at 7 o'clock here, so I'm trying to go a bit more philosophical here as well. But if you were to think about Sahlgrenska here, and then think about, when do you think we will have a larger wide-scale use of AI in Sahlgrenska? Doesn't have to be in a radiology or anything. It can be, for administrative stuff or for writing the journals into the journal system or whatnot. If you were to elaborate in 10 years, how much adoption do you think will have happened in Sahlgrenska?
10 years from now, that's far ahead. I certainly hope that we have come quite far when it comes to adoption of AI. I do believe that there is like a wide implementation of AI at least in certain areas. It's really hard. I mean, it's really hard also to think about how does the technical development looks like within 10 years. There might be so much have happened, so it's hard to say. So if we freeze the sort of technical development today and then think 10 years ahead, there is plenty of opportunities, I would say. So I cannot give you a number or percentage or anything, but there will be use cases where we are using AI widely, I guess.
Okay, so that sounds like an optimistic view
kind
at least.
A little bit cautious, but optimistic. But
do you
cautious.
have any like a dream project that you would like to do before you end?
I'm really keen on this kind of what's called multimodality type of things. I mean, I like this I like digital twin is something we think about when you work with cities or buildings or things, but also the digital twin of a patient, for instance, and combine all the data you find for patients, images, time series, text. It could be also perhaps not just healthcare data. It could be something from your daily life, sensor data from your Apple Watch or whatever, and put all of these. Try to exploit that and do sort of some kind of AI machine learning on that. I think is the kind of.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, really, it's really challenging from many point of views. both from a technical, both from an AI point of view, but also collecting all that kind of data sources and connecting them. Interoperability is really a huge question there. But I mean,
what kind of questions would you take on to that kind of project? What do you want to do with it? So,
I mean,
for whom?
I would say it's like I think we are moving into this kind of more individual type of care. I mean, it's tailored towards exactly your needs, your disease, your profile when it comes to genetic profile, all these kind of things that we
like precision medicine.
Yeah, it's precision medicine, I would say.
Predicting your health.
But also prescribing, because predicting is one thing, but also how should I change my behavior, or how should I change how I live, or what type of medicine should I take? It's more this kind of prescriptive type of. Because
isn't the current type of diagnosing that we have in hospitals very coarse-grained in terms of like they have the same treatment for basically a lot of people? Yeah. But if they actually could personalize them, they could have significantly higher benefits and less side effects, right?
Yeah, I guess, or I'm pretty sure that would be the case. So there is like a huge opportunity, I think, within precision medicine. And then talking about precision medicine, not just being genomics, which we are very used to think about precision medicine being a gene and a disease and a treatment, but thinking like this holistic view of all the data that's available for a patient and use that for basis for precision medicine. That's really exciting.
And there are some areas in neurology when you have like a brain disease. Because I have a brother with a severe form of epilepsy. And then you learn that it's very, very hard to find the right drug and the right amount. And he also needs a various of drugs. And they doesn't really commute together so well. So that's one area also for that digital twin, I believe. If you have a rare condition that's quite hard to find the right drug for, then you can elaborate perhaps before you set it into the person, because that's one thing that happens for a person who has that kind of disease, that you have to try it out, and then you can have a lot of other obstacles along the way. That's an ethical question as well.
Yeah, and the other thing there, I think also, I talk about all the data that's exists for a patient, but also can we combine that with all the knowledge we have, like written in scientific reports? And that is also some kind of multimodality that I think it's really something that perhaps large language models to some extent is taken care of, but I think working with knowledge graphs, there are so many interesting things that you could do when it comes to knowledge, information, data in that space, and combine and going to something called closer to artificial general intelligence.
It will be an exciting field going forward. I think the medical sector will have a lot of benefits from AI coming years, right? And speaking about AGI, then if we go to the final question here, if and when, it sounded a bit uncertain if you believe AGI will happen, but if it were to happen, and some kind of super intelligent, like the level 5 we spoke about in terms of AGI and general intelligence, you could imagine potentially two extremes here. One is that we will have a society similar to the Matrix or the Terminator, where we'll have a dystopian future and machines are trying to kill all the humans. Or it could be more of other extreme, where we have a utopian future where people are free to pursue their creativity and passion, and we don't have the need to work potentially at all, and we still have all the needs that we have in terms of roof of our heads and food and no need really for money. Do you believe, for one, that we will see that kind of society in 5, 10, 50, 100 years, and in which kind of extreme do you think it will happen?
It will take a long time for sure, and I certainly hope that it will not be the dystopian one. I would lean on the positive side, but something you mentioned that I think we will not have to work, and that's a positive thing. I would say that that's a quite negative thing. I think people are meant to spend their time on something useful, and so I think that's a challenge when it comes to. I
think in the formulation there, have to work is one thing, but if they want to work, it's okay, but they don't have to. And I think we're not that far away already today. If you don't really want to, you can just lie on your couch and not at least die. Well, it won't be a good life, but at least you will survive. But perhaps that kind of bar will simply increase in the future, right? Yeah,
but I think there is this have and want to. It's very hard to. I think you need to be. When you grow older and you retire and you don't have you feel that you don't have a purpose anymore.
Yes, purpose could be a problem.
Yeah, I think so. So purpose, I think it's something that's important. And if you don't have a work to go to and where you have a purpose, I'm a little bit scared of that type of society.
Could and what will happen to a bit of a controversial statement here? And you both have dogs, Louise and Magnus.
True.
And I'm sure you getting or understanding working. what I get to.
You also have a dog, so
yes, I also have a dog. Mm. They live, without need to work. They, I think, still have a good life.
Yeah, you're so true.
Right?
It's so true. But sometimes I believe they are creating work.
Because they want to.
Yeah, because they want to. But I have poodles, so they love to collaborate with me. So
because they want to.
Yeah, because they want to. I see I see your point. But what I believe also that we humans, we like to collaborate and be curious and have a purpose. So perhaps we will create some areas where we do stuff together. And perhaps it is because we want to, but then if it is because we want to, then we have to discuss power and hierarchies. Because that's a problem with us
I know
humans.
our dog, which is a small Chihuahua, she actually believes she has the power of my Sambo for sure. So
she has.
Yeah, not over me, I don't think, but maybe.
What kind of dog do you have?
I have a Labradoodle. So his purpose in life is eating and sleeping, I guess. He's very satisfied with it.
Yeah.
I don't see myself
happy, but
yeah, but I don't see myself having that for purpose in life. That would be so dull.
It's so interesting with people having Labradoodles. If we have a doodle that I do, I always get the question, what do you think are the similarities? And then I often say, well, you took out the intelligence from the poodle, put it into a food machine. But perhaps you want that. Do you agree?
Yeah, he's terrible.
Yeah.
He eats everything.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, but I guess, at least reducing the demand to work could be a good thing. I know a lot of people are working just because they have to, at least. And perhaps reducing that demand could be something positive for society.
But don't you have to have like a obligation to society to obtain the society as we know it? You know what I'm going at? Label and taxes for having like a community. So what happens if you don't have to work and make money? So then you have to have another way to,
universal basic income is one, idea that a lot of people are speaking about. You will get an income if you work or do not work, and you can survive on that. And that has even been experimented with in India and other places. So
yeah, but that's for the individual, but for Sahlgrenska, so it's quite expensive to have a hospital. Who's going to pay for it?
But if AI is doing all the work, they will provide all the necessary means to do so, potentially.
Yeah, and also print the money.
But if you even need money, think Star Trek.
Yeah, okay. I like Star Trek.
Super utopian type of thinking.
Very philosophical.
Yeah, in a very capitalistic type of a world that we are living right now, how will that work? Yeah. So when the world is, benefiting those that take the most, right? So.
And there are some interesting discussion about comparing AI, global AI world with the ecological philosophical point of view. So if you see how the biological world is working in balance, is that what we are trying to create also with all the data sharing, and AI working for us?
You sort of lost me there. I don't
quite
follow.
Well, it's being dependent for some, like in an ecosystem.
Okay, yeah.
Depending on different parts to have the balance.
Yeah.
As opposed to be in a capitalist society.
But I don't think that we will be sort of. No one will need to work. I mean, there will be plenty of works where AI would not. I mean, taking care. I mean, there are a lot of things that I don't see AI. So we will probably change our perception of what are the important types of works or type of work that needs to be done. What jobs are important. Now it's like if you're an AI programmer, you're a very important person. Perhaps that will not be the case within 50 years. It will be I'm taking care of children, or I'm the plumber or something. That's the sort of high status
type of
status works. Perhaps.
I have a question. Maybe it's the one that we can conclude it. So if we are looking at healthcare in 10 or 15 or 20 years, right? And we have AI now embedded in all the use cases that you would like to have them today. How it would look like?
How it would look like? Oh.
So patient comes in,
Actually, I think
and then what happens? Like,
We-
how does it look like? Paint a picture.
to be honest, I would like to. I think we are moving in the direction where less of the healthcare is taking place at the hospital and more is taking care at the home of the patient, and we will move
Right.
into more of prevention and less into health care, more into health than into health care, basically. So I think the hospitals might actually be quite big, but it's in physical sense they are smaller because more will be located at the patient's home or individual's home, citizens' homes, basically. So that is one thing, one trend that I see at least. Then there will, of course, be a lot of AI and technology and things around the patients, and for the medical staff that still works at the hospital, they will have a lot of decision supports and automation as well. But yeah,
Would you think that surgeries or primary care will be taken care of some kind of machines, like operation done by robots, some things like that?
yeah, to some extent. I mean, not to 100%, but
Yeah.
some of them, of course, and some not.
Perhaps it will be the same direction as self-driving cars. You know, that you will in the future trust the machine surgeon more than a human surgeon.
But I like the analogy that basically all over the healthcare will be taken home, because I think that we are going there with the wearables even today, and in tomorrow maybe we will have chips that will measure in the blood pressure and the sugar and everything else. So you know when there is a discrepancy in your, or basically in your normal signals, so to say. So then you can go only when it's time.
Yeah.
So that is...
And you also can
That's a
get
good
suggestions from your devices that you should change the way. I mean, you shouldn't sit. You should go out and exercise a little bit more. Or you shouldn't drink that much beer or something.
Right.
You get that quite before you get ill. You get that kind of advice from your.
Exactly, and it becomes part of the triage that we have, right? Interesting. Thank you.
And thank you, Magnus Kjellberg. It was a true pleasure to have you here. The time is flying by, and I know you have to catch a train as well. Thank you very much for the very interesting discussion. I'm sure we could have continued for a long time more, but thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.